Well, we always say retirement is a journey, one that you shouldn't have to navigate solo. So that is why every week here on The Right Path to Retirement, we turn to financial advisor Jimmy Lynn, certified financial planner and the founder of Right Path Wealth Management right here in Las Vegas. All right, let's jump in, Jimmy. I wanted to talk today about managing taxes, and it's because I saw an article this week with the headline, I'm 80 years old and my RMD is $300,000. What the heck am I supposed to do about my huge tax bill? Now, this is another example of what can happen if you are very successful with your 401k and your IRAs. The person that wrote this in has just over $6 million in an IRA. But Jimmy, isn't this why we talk about an IRA to Roth conversion? Talk to me about your thoughts here.
Well, Casey, this is why our most popular seminars that we do around town by far is taxes and retirement. Because for many retirees out there, that's actually top of mind. People aren't necessarily even looking at, how are my investments going to grow in retirement? The number one thing that we're seeing when we're having conversations is just taxes. Because it's kind of a black box. People don't necessarily know, and to be fair, they shouldn't know how our tax system works in the background because there's so many moving parts. But this is a perfect example where we see people, they've done all the hard work of saving in retirement, and you feel like you've done all the right things, and then the government slaps you with this gigantic bill for doing the right things, for not being frivolous, for saving in retirement, for investing to help the economy. And you get rewarded with this huge tax bill that many people don't know about. And that comes in the sense of that RMD. So I like to joke in a lot of our seminars that, if you don't have your own written tax plan in retirement, the government's been kind enough to create one for you. And that is the required minimum distribution. But Casey, if you think about it, if somebody's going to make a plan for you, a lot of times it's to their advantage. If you have your own plan, you can kind of customize it for your situation, and then it's to your advantage.
Yeah. But
that required minimum distribution, for those that don't know, we're talking about tax-deferred retirement accounts. So think 401k, TSP, traditional IRA, 457. Those retirement accounts where you didn't get taxed on the money that you put into it, and it's been growing tax-deferred this entire time. Well, when you take that money out, you get charged at ordinary income rates. Now, the government has said, hey guys, it used to be 70.5 that you had to start taking that money out. They pushed it back to, I believe it's 72, 73, and now for some people it's age 75. So Casey, if our government is in pretty big debt, we know Social Security is in trouble, things like Medicare in trouble. Wouldn't you think that the government would want to collect their taxes on this money earlier? That would stand to make sense.
That would make sense, right?
But instead, what they're doing is they're saying, hey, you can wait till age 75 before you start taking that money out. So in my mind, kind of, I don't know if I'm being cynical, but I'm thinking of it as the more the government waits for those account values to grow, so at age 75, it's going to grow larger. Yeah. That typically means that's larger amounts coming out, which is more taxes for the government. So It's actually to their benefit to let those accounts grow in value, let you delay taking that money out, and so they can collect more taxes. Yeah. And the other thing I think about, Casey, and it seems to make sense, is that a lot of times these are married couples that have these retirement accounts. Married couples, when you pull money out, you pay less taxes than single people typically because it's married filing jointly. So if you wait for somebody, a married couple, you don't start forcing them to take money out till age 75, then it's closer for one of those two people in that couple to pass away because now they're older. Yeah. When one of them passes away, whatever remaining balance is in there now gets pulled out and gets taxed at those single rates, which are typically higher. So if they're able to push those accounts to grow more so that the distributions become larger, and then at some point sooner, those distributions get taxed at single rates, I think the government knows what they're doing. I think they know that they could potentially collect more taxes. And that's why I feel like people have to have their own plan. Yeah. And they have to be able to understand their situation and see what makes sense for them and not just follow the government's RMD plan.
Yeah. So, okay, then what age, Jimmy, should people in your ideal world start thinking about RMDs and potential problems that their RMDs could cause? Because this person that wrote in, they waited until they were 80 and now they have a $300,000 RMD. So if you could talk to this person, what would have been, hindsight's 2020, but what would have been ideal for this person to actually start thinking about this?
80 becomes very difficult because now you're right in the thick of the required minimum distributions. So things like Roth conversions are the strategy that a lot of us look at, where we are trying to take those monies from a 401k or traditional IRA and put them into a Roth IRA. The year that you do that, you got to pay taxes on that. But once you start those RMDs, the money that comes out of an RMD, the required distribution, cannot be put into a Roth IRA anymore. That money has to go into your bank account or some type of taxable account. So if you want to start utilizing like this strategy, you have to take out more than your required distribution. So typically the ideal sweet spot is several years before those RMDs start.
Yeah.
Because you want to do it before the government requires you to do so. And then the answer to your question of when, as soon as you are thinking about retirement, if you're a couple years from retirement or just entering into retirement, that's when you want to start the conversation, because now we can kind of strategize on how you want to do this tax planning. It's not only about when you're going to do conversions. It's about when do you want to start taking income? When do you want to start filing for Social Security? Because that money you bring in from Social Security, guess what? That's taxable. So it takes up space where we can do things like a Roth conversion. So it's kind of a big puzzle that we got to put together. And the sooner we have the opportunity to look at the larger picture, the sooner we can kind of make strategies where we can decide when we want to take income, when do we want to do Roth conversions, because all of this impacts other areas of your life. Like, how much do we pay in our Medicare premiums? How much do we pay on our capital gains taxation? So none of this works in isolation. It's almost like a domino effect. When you trigger income from your 401k, it can trigger taxes in your investments. Like I said, it can increase the amount of taxes you pay in your Social Security, and it could affect your Medicare premiums. So you want to start early. Mm-hmm. You want to have a plan as you're entering into retirement. That's a lot, Casey, of what we do in that Right Path Retirement Report. Mm-hmm. Where we'll look at your situation, look at the assets you saved, look at the income that you are planning to receive, whether it be Social Security or a pension or rental income. And we put those puzzle pieces together and make suggestions for you on what you'd want to do to avoid what, this example of this $300,000 RMD. You want to get ahead of that. And the only way to get ahead of that is through planning. So if anyone wants to get that type of report, you can call us right now and get on my calendar, 702-744-8344. And I am happy to jump on the phone with you and start that process of getting you that complimentary Right Path Retirement Report.
We could really sit here and talk about this all day. Jimmy, I know you're really passionate about tax planning and tax mitigation for your clients, and I don't want to get too much in the weeds here, but I do want to ask how you determine how much somebody should convert without creating a new tax problem. Is there a brief answer you can give us there, or is it a much deeper, longer conversation?
It is a deeper, longer conversation because it happens on a year-by-year basis. People's income changes on a year-by-year basis. The tax code changes on a year-by-year basis, and their investments perform at different levels on a year-by-year basis. So we have to take all those different pieces. And so we have these meetings every single year with our clients. It's not something that we develop a plan when they come on board and then it's just set it and forget it. Every year, multiple times throughout the year, we're having conversations about the tax situation and how we could strategize around the different moving parts. So big pictures, it is not one thing that we're looking for. Everyone's situation is different, but our goal, if we want to look at it from a larger perspective, is let's always try to pay taxes when taxes are cheapest for us. So for married couples, it's cheapest when you're married filing jointly, and it's typically going to be cheaper in your lifetime versus your children's lifetime. So identifying things like that are a starting point, but you definitely need your own tax plan. You don't want to have a kind of a cookie cutter plan.
And that's going to do it for us this week here on the Right Path to Retirement. But Jimmy and I will be back next week with more retirement insight for Las Vegas. But until then, Jimmy, I'm handing it back over to you. Any final thoughts today?
I just want to thank everyone for their continued support. And remember, folks, you only have one retirement. So make sure that you have a plan in place. Please get your Right Path Retirement Report today.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Right Path Wealth Management. Right Path Wealth Management is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth, LLC, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Right Path Wealth Management are not subject to investment advisory requirements. Investing involves risk, including potential loss of principal. Any reference to the protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing carrier. This radio podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It's not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decision, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Right Path Wealth Management is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Right Path Wealth Management.
Market Guard is a firm that provides investment signals as well as portfolio allocation recommendations, wide variety of model portfolios. Market Guard does not offer advice or enter into fiduciary relationships.